In the busy world of money and big business, there are some names that stand out like giants. In the southern part of Africa, one of those giant names is Absa. Absa is not just a bank where people keep their coins and notes. It is a huge financial services group that touches the lives of millions of people every single day. When we talk about money in South Africa and in other parts of the continent, Absa is a very important part of the story. From a small child saving a few coins in a piggy bank account to a big company moving millions of rands across countries, Absa is there. To understand this bank, we have to go back in time. The name Absa used to stand for Amalgamated Banks of South Africa. That long name tells you a lot about its beginning. It was formed when several smaller banks decided to join together to become stronger. That joining happened in the early 1990s, a very important time for South Africa. The country was changing, opening up to the world, and a big, solid bank was needed. So, these smaller banks, like the Allied Bank, the United Bank, and others, became one big family. At first, Absa was a purely South African story. It grew quickly because it was good at understanding ordinary people. While other big banks focused on rich people and big companies, Absa built branches everywhere, in the cities, in the small towns, and in the rural villages. They made banking feel more normal for a regular human being. For example, a teacher or a police officer could open an account easily. A small shop owner could get a loan to buy more stock. The money moved through Absa. People received their salaries into Absa accounts. They paid their electricity bills at Absa counters. They saved money for their children's school fees at Absa. This made Absa a bank of the people. But then, something huge happened that changed the whole picture. In 2005, a massive British bank named Barclays came to South Africa. Barclays had a very old history in Africa, going back over 100 years. But now, they wanted to come back in a big way. They bought a big part of Absa. For many years, Absa became the African face of Barclays. The name Absa stayed, but the money and the big decisions were linked to London. This was good in many ways. Absa got new technology, new ideas, and lots of money to grow. They could lend more money to more people. They built better online banking systems. For a normal customer, it felt like their bank was becoming modern and powerful. But all good stories have a twist. In 2016, Barclays decided to change its mind. They wanted to reduce their business in Africa to focus more on their home market in Britain. So they decided to sell their shares in Absa. This was a massive moment. After more than 10 years, Absa was going to become independent again. But it was not a simple goodbye. The process was long and difficult. The two banks had to slowly separate their computer systems, their legal teams, and their money flows. This took several years. Finally, in 2020, Absa stood on its own 2 feet again. The blue and white logo of Barclays was gone. In its place came a new, proud Absa logo. A symbol of a fresh start. Now, Absa had to write its own story again. And that story is about Africa. Today, Absa is not just a South African bank. It is a major African bank. It has its own offices and business in countries like Botswana, Ghana, Kenya, Mauritius, Mozambique, the Seychelles, South Africa, Tanzania, Uganda, and Zambia. The goal is to be a big player on the whole continent, so, what does Absa actually do with all this money? Let us break it down in simple terms. First, there is everyday banking. This is what most of us understand. You go to work, your boss puts your salary into your Absa account. You use an Absa card to buy groceries, to pay for petrol, or to buy a bus ticket. You use the Absa app on your phone to send money to your mother or to pay for your internet. This is the heartbeat of the bank. Millions of people use these services every second. The money comes in, and the money goes out. Absa makes money from this by charging small fees for certain services, like sending a lot of money or keeping a special account open. But the real big money for a bank like Absa comes from lending. When you save money in your Absa account, the bank does not just keep it in a big vault. They take that money and lend it to someone else. For example, a young couple wants to buy their first small house. They go to Absa for a home loan, also called a mortgage. Absa agrees to give them 1 million rands to buy the house. In return, the couple pays back the money little by little every month, plus an extra amount called interest. That interest is how Absa makes its profit. The same goes for a person who wants a car loan to buy a new vehicle, or a student who needs a loan to pay for university. Absa lends the money, and the borrower pays back more than they borrowed over time. Another huge part of Absa is business banking. This is where much larger sums of money move. Imagine a factory that makes clothes. They need to buy cotton from another country, pay their workers every Friday, and sell their clothes to a big store. The factory cannot do this with cash in a briefcase. They need a bank. Absa provides the accounts to hold the money, the system to pay the workers electronically, and the service to receive money from the store that buys the clothes. If the factory wants to grow and build a new building, they will borrow many millions of rands from Absa. Absa also helps big companies that want to raise money by selling shares to the public. This is called investment banking. It sounds very fancy, but it just means that Absa helps companies find big piles of money from investors all over the world. For a normal person, this feels very far away. But it affects your life. When Absa helps a phone company raise money, that company might build better towers, and your phone signal gets stronger. When Absa helps a power company get a loan, that company might fix the electricity lines, and your lights stay on. Absa also plays a big role in the money of the rich and the very rich. This is called wealth management. If you have a lot of money, like several million rands, you do not want to just keep it in a normal savings account. You want that money to grow. You want to invest it in the stock market, in government bonds, or in property. Absa has special experts who help these rich people protect and grow their money. They advise them on where to put their money so that it is safe but also earns more money. They also help with planning what will happen to the money when the rich person dies, so that their children get the money without problems. For normal people with less money, Absa still helps. They offer simple savings accounts that pay a small amount of interest. They offer fixed deposit accounts where you agree to leave your money for a year or two, and in return, the bank pays you a higher interest. So if you have 5,000 rand saved for an emergency, you can put it in a savings account and earn a little extra money just for doing nothing. That is the magic of interest working for you, but a bank is not just about making profit. Absa has to be very careful. The biggest job of any bank is to keep people's money safe. Imagine if Absa lent too much money to bad businesses that could not pay it back. Then Absa would not have enough cash for normal people who want to withdraw their salary. That would be a disaster. So the government has a powerful group called the South African Reserve Bank. This group watches Absa like a hawk. They say, you must keep a certain amount of real cash in your vaults at all times. You cannot lend out every single coin. You must be strong and honest. Absa also has to follow strict rules to stop bad people from using the bank to hide money from crimes. This is called anti-money laundering. If someone tries to put 1 million rands in cash into an Absa account without a good reason, the bank's computers will raise a red flag, and the bank will ask questions. This is a very serious matter. Banks that break these rules can be fined hundreds of millions of rands. And the leaders can even go to jail. In recent years, Absa has changed a lot with technology. You do not need to go to a bank branch as often as before. You can do almost everything on your phone. You can open a new account in 5 minutes by taking a picture of your identity document and a selfie. You can send money to a friend using just their phone number. You can lock your card if you lose it, and unlock it when you find it. This is all about making money move faster and easier. Absa has also worked hard to be a bank that cares about the world. They talk about green finance, which means lending money for projects that are good for the environment, like a company that builds solar panels or a farm that uses less water. They also have programs to teach young people about money. They want kids to know that a coin saved is a coin earned. They want teenagers to understand that a credit card is not free money, it is a loan that must be paid back with interest. This financial education is very important because when people understand money, they make better choices. They do not fall into traps of too much debt. So what does the future hold for Absa? The bank is now truly African. It wants to grow in other African countries, not just South Africa. It wants to help African businesses trade with each other. Right now, it is often easier for a business in Kenya to trade with a business in London than with a business in Ghana. The money has to go through banks in Europe or America. Absa wants to change that. It wants to create a big African banking network so that money can flow easily from Accra to Nairobi to Johannesburg. This will help Africa become richer and more independent. The challenge is that many African countries have different rules, different currencies, and different levels of stability. Moving money across borders in Africa is still slow and expensive. But Absa believes it can solve this problem. In conclusion, Absa is much more than a name on a building. It is a giant machine that moves money every second of every day. For a normal human being, it is the place where you keep your salary, pay your rent, and save for a rainy day. For a business, it is the engine that helps them buy, sell, and grow. For a country, it is a pillar of the economy, a lender to the government, and a guardian of the financial system. From the coins in a child's hand to the millions in a company's account, Absa handles it all. The story of Absa is the story of modern African money. It has seen changes, big partnerships, and a hard-fought independence. Today, it stands as a proud African bank, trying to make the flow of money simple, safe, and useful for everyone. And as long as people need to save, spend, and borrow, a bank like Absa will always be at the very center of our lives.